Hello. This is my video tutorial of how to backlight a Game Boy. This is one with my favourite game in. That's not been backlit, as you can see. What we're going to do is install one of these. This is a density backlight by ASM. I sell these on eBay. I've been doing so for a little while. I've been installing them for about 18 months, and they're one of the best out there. Well, I think they are the best, but that's just my personal opinion. So what we're going to use, the things that we're going to need when we do this is, I have a multi, as you can see, I've collected an awful lot of Game Boy screws over my time, but we do have, I've got a multi-purpose screwdriver, one with a tri-wing on it. Let's see if I can get to zoom in. Hang on. Anyway, it is a tri-wing, and the other one, normal posi screwdriver. So you'll see me swap them over in the middle, just so you know what I'm doing. You only need the tri-wing to get the ones on the outside off. I've already loaded this with some batteries, but I'm going to be taking them out shortly. The other things that I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be swapping the buttons over. I'm not going to change the screen cover because actually this is in pretty good nick, and I do like to keep them original when it's okay. I've got some solder here, normal lead-free solder. We've got some flux, which I inherited off my father-in-law, and I think it's probably older than me. I've also got a set of needle nose pliers. I might not need these depending on how it goes, but I'm going to keep them handy anyway. And some wire cutters. I'll definitely need them. I've also got a little flathead screwdriver and a very small posi screwdriver. Now I do have the head in there, but this seems to work really well, so I tend to use that. I've also got a Stanley knife as well, or a craft blade, or whatever you want to call it. You only need that at one point. It needs to be fairly sharp. I've just sharpened this tonight, and I've also got a soldering iron, which is off camera, but just so you know, so I don't have to give that a clean. There we go. Oh yeah, and 2 dusters. So 1, 2. So they're the only things I've got anyway. Right, so let's begin. Right, so what we're going to do is, right, so first thing we're going to do, take the game out, take the battery cover off, get the batteries out, and get one of my cloths. And plonk that down like that. You'll see these appear all the time in pictures and things that I take. Anyway, and I'm going to get my tri-wing screwdriver and remove these 6 screws just here. Fairly easy to do. Luckily enough, they're very well built, so you tend not to strip them, as long as you take your time. I did try and use an electric one a while ago, and it didn't work very well, so just to try and speed things up a little bit, but I tend to find that the manual ones are much better. And occasionally you might open up the back of your Game Boy and it doesn't have tri-wings in. That means it's one of the early ones. Doesn't mean it's worth any more. If anything, it's inferior slightly. But yeah, you might find them where they don't have tri-wings in. That's essentially before Nintendo realised that people can take them apart quite easily and put them back together. So it decided to use the tri-wing to try and put little kids off from taking them apart. So like I did when I know if it didn't have tri-wings, I would have probably took mine apart when I was little. So anyway. This particular Game Boy is in rather good nick, so I'm not going to be doing an awful lot to it. Most of the time, what I would do is once I've taken it apart, and I've taken all of the component parts out, I would normally strip away the back, strip everything out, and I would I would wash the case, but this is in particularly good nick. There's only a little bit of dirt in there, and that's pretty much it. So I won't bother doing that on this one. But I would say 90% of them that I end up doing, I end up having to wash and wait to dry, and they just make a Game Boy feel so much nicer. I mean, they make it feel like, you know, much newer. But as I say, this one's in particularly good nick. You can tell it's been looked after, so I don't really need to do that with this one. So what I'm going to do now is, because I'm going to be using this later on, I am going to be biverting this Game Boy, but for the time being, I'm just going to swap, because that's in a separate tutorial, because it's another task. What I'm going to do is I'm going to swap this over, because I'm going to be putting this red switch in. So it's just to save. I mean, you could do this later on, but it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to pop this in here. Close that up. You might see me swap my my head over there. I didn't even realise I'd done it. Yeah, and then I just happened to have a black cover, so I'm putting a red power switch in it, a black cover, and yellow buttons. Anyway, I'm going to close that up, because we are going to need this back as we're doing everything else. Because every step along the way, I always tend to put the Game Boy back together, and to see whether everything that I've done previously, it has worked. Because I mean, when I first started doing this 18 months ago, you know, I used to take them apart, put them back together, and then before I'd know it, I'd get to the point where I'd put it all back together and it wouldn't work, or there'd be a big massive clump of dust in there, and it'd really wind me up, because you'd have to take all them screws out, you'd have to then take all these out again, reposition all the buttons, and it's just worth your while just having that. You could even put the back on, you know, just to make sure the batteries don't fall out. No, I thought I'd need these. So if ever your port cover won't stay in properly, you know, it's quite loose, best thing to do is, if you just, I mean, very gently, you take your pliers and just push these covers down like that, and you see it'll square it up, and then that little tooth there, I don't know if you can see, but that little tooth is just going to sit in the slot in there. Oh, whoops, in the bottom, sorry. So I'll pop that in there, so that won't come out as easy now. Anyway, right, so now we've got 10 screws on here, so I tend to start from the middle and work my way out, but it doesn't really matter as long as you've got them all. So the important thing is with these is try not to strip them, because if you do strip these are quite easily stripped, and I've used many. I mean, I've actually had this for about a year, and it's absolutely fantastic. I've used quite a lot in the past where they're either too big or too small. This happens to be exactly the right size. I don't know what size it is. I think it says in the packet. It's either PH00 or PHO. It's one of them four anyway. I don't know what it is, but it's pretty good. So if you're going to be doing a few of them, it might be worth your while investing in a good screwdriver. So as I say, I did try using an electric one, but it used to strip so many screws, and you know, to be honest, it's not really a lot quicker. You know, by the time you've put it on, and you know, most of the time they're not magnetic, so you know, it's not worth it. It's just easier to do it by hand. Well, I think so anyway. I'm sure they weren't put together by hand, but anyway, right. So now we've got all 10 of them out. This is sort of one of the things that you have to be sort of delicate, but not necessarily. All I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this area at the bottom, and I'm going to prise it up until basically it clicks. And sometimes they're stuck a little bit harder than others, and then you can feel the adhesive give way. Once that's give way, you just pull it and it pops off, and you've got your PCB there. And take these out. Sometimes these might be a different colour. If ever you get a white one of these, they're quite rare. They're on the early ones. And if ever you are doing some, and you've got more than one, and you take them all apart, try and keep the white ones for your clear Game Boys, because you can see these under the buttons, and the white ones look way better. I mean, I try to keep them anyway. I'm trying to. I mean, it doesn't make any difference. It's just aesthetics. So I'm going to put them just off the camera, along with that and your buttons. So I'm going to be replacing them. So I'm going to put them way over there. Right, now normally what I would do is I'd replace this, but as I said earlier, it's in really good condition, so I'm not going to bother. I'm just going to get, I'm going to get my flathead screwdriver and just get rid of this adhesive border here. So, and once that's gone, you know, it'll just make life a little bit easier when we're putting it back together. This was put in to prevent dust from getting into the screen, and to be fair, it does quite a good job. But obviously it's really old, so it's not really worth keeping. So yeah, so that's that. So I'll put that out the camera. We won't need that for a while. Attention moves to this anyway. Now, when I tested this speaker is quite good. If you do have a faulty speaker, now's the time to change it. You can change it, you know, if you've got a spare Game Boy, you can change the speaker quite easily. I know on the slideshow tutorial I did, I just unsoldered them, and literally it's so simple. The downside is these speakers, they're not made anymore, so quite old technology. So, but you can swap any Nintendo DS, Nintendo Game Boy speaker. You can swap anything in, you know, anything in to change it. They all do the same job. As long as it's designed to be a Nintendo product, most of them work under, you know, all in the same tolerances anyway. So you can't really fall off. Anyway, obviously, it's even some mobile phone speakers work, but that's up to you anyway. Right. So now what I'm going to do is we're going to basically install the backlight. Now this is probably the trickiest part. This is the bit that I wanted to show the most. This is the thing that people have the most problems with. It's fairly easy when you know how. You get your small posi screwdriver. Take these two little screws out at the bottom, and what that does is that lets you access in behind the screen. So what I'm going to do is flathead screwdriver just in the top. I'm just going to prise it up. Now there's two little adhesive pads under here. So I'm just going to prise it up until they both pop away. It shouldn't take an awful lot. There we go. So you get two underneath here. You get one there, one there. Remove that. Remove that one. Put them over there. And then you do actually have quite a lot of give here. The Game Boy Pockets, which I'll be doing a tutorial on after this, it should be added pretty. That's it's the one that mainly I wanted to do this for. But yeah, anyway, that's much harder because it's like you're having to remove the film with it like that. Now this as long as you don't pull it too far, as long as you don't put too much pressure on these points here, on that point there, you can't really fall off. If you do. I mean, I might do it, I might do it, and you might see me repair it, but it's no big deal if you do. You can fix these ones, but if you tear that, you pretty much may as well throw the screen away. You can fix it, but trust me, it's not worth the time and effort. It involves a lot of labour, and it's not worth it. Anyway, now I'm going to get my craft knife, and just in the corner. You can do it in either of the two corners, but I tend to pick this one. As I say, I've not said, but I've probably done, maybe there's 150 of these. So I'm quite well practiced at it. So what I've done is I've just cut away a little bit of the screen cover. Now the key is to get it all, so it doesn't just take away the silver film, it also takes away the green tinge from the back. Now, I know you can't really see, but if I was only to cut... I'll tell you what, I'll see if I can try and replicate it. When I first done one of these, 18 months ago, 2 years ago, I don't think... I'm not going to be able to do it, because I'm not used to doing the... I'm not used to doing the others. But if you only cut half of it off, it can look like you've done an ace job, but it's awful. I don't know. Anyway, you just have to take my word for it. I can't do it. Anyway, then this is, yet again, this is probably the hardest thing. Now, best thing to do is keep a firm grip on the glass and pull as much of this as you can with your thumb. Now, what I tend to do is I tend to sort of, rather than trying to pull it all off, because, you know, those people that know anything about geometry, as you know, as the surface area increases, the force required to pull it off increases too. So, you know, if you can make the area where the adhesive that you're having to take off is less, it will make the job a hell of a lot easier. So what I tend to do is I tend to work around the inside, work around the outside. As you can see, I've sort of created a circle in the centre, and then as you get that, you just pull the circle away. Then do exactly the same thing. You know, try and work a circle on the way around the outside. And then I could have went for it there, but I could have taken it all off there, but I'm making a point and doing it slowly until it pops off. Now this one you'll probably get 90% of them come off like this. Occasionally you'll get a one that's really, 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 really stubborn, and you'll have to spend, you know, 2 hours with your spit, or if you've got it, what do you call it? My wife uses it for her fingernails. Anyway, that'll take the adhesive straight off as well. You got to be careful with that though, because if you get in contact with anything else but the screen, it ruins the Game Boy. If you get in contact with one of these, you know, again you've written it off. So anyway, I should have just pulled it off when I could. Anyway, so I'm making a point of, you know, of trying to do it slowly as possible, so you can see there's many ways of taking it off. So that's it. You should be left with that. So that's the background gone. So you've got a clear screen now. Well, almost clear, with a little bit of residue on the back. What I tend to do, because dust is, you know, from my point of view, you know, I'm doing plenty of these. I absolutely hate dust, and I'm quite a perfectionist. If I put a Game Boy together and I see that there's any dust inside the screen, it gets took apart and gets done again. So what I tend to do is I tend to make a point of making sure it's perfect in the first place. So, because yet again, you know, when I first started, you sort of put them together and you go, oh, for God's sake, and you spend more time taking it apart and putting it back together than what you'd know. So all I do here is I sort of as you can see, I sort of grab it with my hand, take the pressure, press in the thumb that way so the screen stays in the same place, and then just small circles with a bit of spit, or if you've got isopropyl alcohol or you've got something, I mean, spit's fine when it's as light as this. And then the main area, I don't know if you can see, but the main area where the adhesive is just in the corner here, where the knife was. Most of the stuff that you've pulled off, it'll come off straight away. It's dead easy. So I'm just going to slowly try and get this all off. There's probably people looking at this thinking, what's he doing, or this isn't the way that I'd do it. And that's absolutely fine, but that's the beauty about me doing a tutorial. Because one, for the people that buy already modded Game Boys, for me you can see exactly what process I do, you know, to do it. And people that simply buy the kit and just want to know how to do it, you can see how I do it. And you know, there's loads of people out there that all offer tutorials, but I just thought I'd make my input into the community and, you know, show you what I do. So, right, and to be fair, a lot of it I've learnt from, you know, people like Apeshit, who runs ASM, and Mike J. Moffat. He offers some brilliant ideas. You know, he's fantastic. You know, people like that. To be fair, if it wasn't for them two, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be doing this. So anyway, right. So I'm just gonna clear up all that, and then we should be left with a nice clear screen. I might even, right, that's, as I say, for me this is the most important part, and because this determines how good the screen's going to look. If you let any dust or you leave any residue on here, you know, you're not going to do a very good, it's not going to it's not going to show well. I mean, anybody that knows anything about painting or airbrushing or anything like that, the preparation is the hardest part. It's the most time consuming, it's the most boring, but that's the thing that makes the product look absolutely fantastic. So anyway, right, so that's that done. Yeah, I just had a quick check of my video, make sure there's everything okay. So everything was okay, and it is. So right, so yeah, again, dust is your worst enemy. So, and this thing probably hasn't been opened up since, well, when was this? What was probably made in 1991 or 1992. So it's over 20 years old. So there probably is some dirt and things in there. So, but as I say, we'll worry about that later on. Right. So that's that from the. So I'm going to put that off the camera, and the next thing we're going to do is we're going to prepare the kit. So now, when Apeshit designed these, he designed them quite clever, I think. Well, personally, I think he does. Now, this is the difference between why I think these ones are so good in comparison to the others. There's simply this little tab at the bottom. Now, the beauty of this is it gives you so many options. You're not tied into, you're not tied into putting cables in a certain place. In the old models, you used to have to cut this plastic trim, but because of how this is designed, it just sits in. I mean, you'll see later on, but it just sits in, and that little tab, runs over. It's really clever. It means I suppose you never would want to take it out, but if and the other thing is, you'd be pretty hard to get one of them screens back on. But if ever you did want to take it out, you could. If you wanted to replace it, in theory, you're making it as stock as possible. So. Technically it makes the structure, not that it matter, but the structure more stronger as well. So a couple of things. This is a polarizing film. So this is it's got two. If you wonder what that cracking, some of them come like that. That happens in the factory, but it's only protective. It's only a protective layer, and you get one on each side. You'll see they've got a bending. Essentially, these are made in a roll, and when they're cut, the roll, some of the roll shape stays. So you do have to put it in a certain way to stop it from causing pressure points. If you put it in that way, you'll get what looks like a little reservoir in the middle. And to be fair, you can ignore it, but if you put it in the way on the edges, you don't. I don't know. It's just something I've learned over time. So anyway, that's to avoid that. Now, what I tend to do as well is I tend to trim a little bit of this off. This is mainly designed for, it's designed for the Game Boy, but it's designed for the DMG, and it's designed so you can put it in both ways, and of course it doesn't sit. It sits in and. It's a good fit, but when you put it in this way, if that wasn't there, sometimes they slip. That slips that way, and you can get a slither at the bottom or whatever. So Robert, Apeshit's been really clever and designed this polarizing film so it fits in that way. And you can rotate it. As I say, just to give me a little bit more leeway, I tend to trim a couple of mil off. You don't have to. But yet again, it's one of them things that I picked up, whilst using these, and I just prefer to do it. So anyway, you'll see me do that. Right. So what I've got here, I'm going to put this on top. Now all I'm going to do here is I'm going to trim these two cables. You can use either. Positive, I tend to put for the red, obviously, and the black I tend to use for negative. So what I'm going to do is the positive is going to go to this point here, this point. And the negative is going to go to this point. Now both the cables are going to run behind this mylar sheet here, but importantly, the main thing, because we don't want loads and loads of cable there, and we're going to trim it. So all I tend to do is hold it in place, get my wire cutters, hold it in place, pop that, and I always give myself a little bit of leeway because you don't want to be left with a short cable. I'm going to cut it to about there. So that's surplus now. Got that. And then I'm going to do the same for the negative. So I can give myself a little bit of leeway just in case. I'll trim that off.
put the other, and then you see one end's already been sort of pre-tinned, so you don't have to touch that. Let's get the flux out. And the other end, well, on both of them, I'm going to have to cut. So you can use wire cutters for this, but wire strippers for this. But I just tend to use them. Squeeze a little bit and take the shielding off. Twist it together with your fingers. And that's where the soldering starts. So, whoops. That's why it's always good to put a little bit extra on, I feel, just in case you cut a little bit off like that. Oh, it's not the end of the world. There's plenty of cable there, like so. Although you can use it for other things. Right. So what I'm going to do is just to make the contact a little bit better. I'm going to pre-tin these. So essentially, I'm going to cover them in solder. So to make the solder run free, I'm going to just dip it. Now, some people might not have some people might want to paint it on, but because I've got a huge vat of solder here, I tend to just too much there. I tend to just dip it in. So I'll put that there. Amazing stuff, Flux. It makes your life so much easier. So cut them. Get our soldering iron. Now I've got a variable one. I tend to set it about 400 degrees. Some people might disagree and say that's far too hot or whatever, but I tend to find any hotter and it oxidises way too quick. Any colder, it takes too long. So anyway, I don't know what the operating temperature of my solder is. I've had it for years. So anyway, so all I'm going to do is, now it's covered in solder, it's going to, you see, that should have, well, it has. I don't know whether you can see, but it's taken to the cable quite well, and also a bit of the shieldings went back where there wasn't an awful lot of it before, which works out quite well for us because it gives us more of a contact point. So do both these cables. I shouldn't need to apply any solder to the backlight. It works. It normally goes on quite well. Now, yet again, when I first got one of these, I put it down and on my cloth, and the heat went through there, and it stuck to the cloth. So I don't, because these have got plastic in them. So all I do, I'll just hold it, and it's going to make a liar of me, isn't it? Sometimes it does this. I don't know why. I should know why, but I don't. Right, that's not working, so I'll just clean it off. Let's try some more solder. It might be because it's full of flux, I think, possibly. Let's have a look. Nice and clean now. Yeah, well, it's getting there, I suppose. I'll just get a big glob on there for now. I'll clean it up in a bit. So it's not wanting to work. It's not wanting to play ball. It's no big deal. Alright, let's try a bit of solder. There we go. Bit of flux, sorry. Nice shiny solder, that's what we want, rather than the dull stuff. And there we go, that's the stuff. So you get a nice glob on it like that. So it covers the whole contact. So let's clean that off. So a nice clean soldering iron. So now I'm going to solder the cables to it. So you can use whichever end, it doesn't matter. So what I'm going to do is hold that onto the plus, wait for the solder to turn liquid, plonk the cable in, and just wait for it to. You can dunk this in flux again, but it's not really any need when it's this easy. So, and then that's that one done. And there's our backlight ready to go in. So now I'm going to install it. So what I tend to like to do, some people install it and put the wires in. I tend to find it I tend to find it easier to wire it in first. So I'm going to need to pre-tin just just pop a little bit more solder where the cables are going. So I just bent the capacitor away. So you see, that's going to plunk a little bit more solder there, just to give me a bit more of a contact point. And that'll do us. And because these are going in what could be really old solder, I'm going to pre-dunk the things in flux again. So negative onto this one. Try and fish it through so it goes all the way through the circuit board. If you can't, it's no big deal, but if you can, it just makes that that one hasn't gone through. It just makes the contact so much better. Look, I think I think part of it is look. That one's gone right the way through. So anyway, so that's that, and that is the hardest bit by far. So now, because we're essentially done with all of the dirty stuff, you take the plastic cover off the backlight. You can give it a couple of dabs just to make sure there's no dust on it, but generally it should be fairly clean once you've taken that off. Now I've touched it with my dirty hands. Anyway, pop that under there. So this is where we reseat the cables so they don't sit above there, because otherwise when you put the screw back in it won't work. And this is where the design is really clever, because as you can see, there's nothing there. So anyway, so I'm just going to quickly get my cleaning cloth. There's a bit of dirt in there. It's quite big, so I'm just going to get it with my finger. In fact, I'm not. I'm going to use a cloth because I wasn't expecting it to be on the glass. Yeah, if ever it's on the LCD, on the LED panel, you can just take it off with your finger because it doesn't mark that. But on the screens, you can't really get away with taking it off with your finger because it leaves horrible fingerprints. So now I'm doing this in real time because I want you to see how long it takes me to do it. So because I mean some of the tutorials. I will put some of the tutorials, skip past this point, but I will put some time things on there. So if you do want to skip past certain points because you're bored or whatever, you can just skip to certain times in the video. I don't know what they're going to be yet, but I will. I'll put some in there. Right, so that's pretty much our backlight fitted. So I think this is one of the most important bits here. Put this in. And first thing, before we insert any polarization film, I don't know, you won't be able to see on the camera, but when you put this together, you'll see there's a very, very thin LCD. And the whole idea behind this is to spot any dust. I mean, there's a bit down there. Now, because that's quite far away, I haven't got a cotton bud here. I'm going to go and get one. But yeah, I tend to use a cotton bud or my patented credit card. But yeah, it's not patented really. But yeah, I'm gonna get rid of that. So in fact, to be honest, it's on the LCDs. No, it's on the glass. Right. I'm just gonna try and use a cloth. If that doesn't work. Bit in the middle there. Yeah, there we go. So that's it. It's pretty well. It's dust free. I mean, you're always going to get little, very, very small bits of dust in there, but you've got to really look for them. Right. So now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go and grab some scissors. So now all I'm going to do is I'm going to cut as I say, about 3mm off. Enough just so there's still a little indent there. But I'm just going to cut it off. Just as I say, I find you get slightly better results with it. And then what I'm going to do is you'll see there's two sides to this. One of them should be slightly thicker than the other. So we take the thicker one off first. Plonk that down there, and then take the thinner one off. And as I say about what I said earlier, see the bend to it. That's not me squeezing it. That's the bend. Try to put the bend, you know, the bottom of the bend at the, touching the LED panel. So if you put it in this way, you get a standard screen. Or if you put, so that's with the little sticky out bit at the bottom, at the side, sorry. If you turn it and put the little sticky out bit at the bottom, you get an inverted display. Now, the inverted display, as you can see, drastically improves the contrast, so it makes the offs a lot brighter. The offs a lot, the offs a lot darker on here. Or if you bivert it, it makes the ons a lot darker. I am going to be biverting it, so that's how I'm going to leave it. Now, there's a lot of stuff on here, but I think it might be my for me talking. So I'm just going to give this a wipe, because I think that's pretty much it. Hang on. Yeah, there we go. So there's no dust in there. You can, the other thing you can do is you can turn the contrast right down if you're on traditional, or you can turn it right up if you're not on traditional, sort of, and that'll make it all, well, white or yellow. It'll turn all of the pixels off, so you can have a look for dust again. Because yet again, I do want to stress, the last thing you want to do is put it all back together, which is by far the longest part of the mod, and and realise that you've missed a bit of dust. So I'm just going to put these two screws in, yet again getting my little screwdriver, and that's that. So you don't want to squeeze them you don't want to tighten them up too hard, because otherwise you might unthread it. So I'm just going to undo that, put that over there, and then I'm going to get my screen cover now, my front plastic. And yet again, because I'm not going to change the screen cover on this because it's in quite good nick. I'm just going to give it a quick dust, and then it's going back together. So I'm going to pop that in there. I'm going to put me buttons in. And again, I'm changing these, so I'm putting yellow ones in. Give these a quick once over with a cloth or your fingers or whatever, just get rid of as much of the muck as possible. So I'll put that in there. These are actually quite clean. There's a little bit on them, but there's not an awful lot. Sometimes you get them and they're like proper caked, really, really badly caked. So put that in there. And then these as well. There we go. Right, now because you screwed these together, the screen shouldn't pop out. Oh, it's still a little smudge there, I'm just getting rid of that. And then just place that down. And that's our Game Boy done, pretty much. So I'm going to get these 10 screws back in. Now, another little tip with these as well. If you turn, obviously righty tighty, lefty loosey, and all that. As you turn to the right, it tightens it up. Turn it left, it loosens it. This is another little tip I've got. If you turn it to the right, just half a turn until you feel it click, you will never ever cross thread one of these, ever. It's just something that I tend to do every time. It's just because when I first started doing this, you know, I just could not get enough of these screws. I'd take sort of 5 out, and or I'd just get 5. You know, I'd have 5 sort of screws that were completely headless, and I had to throw away. So yeah, just turning a quarter or that half turn the other way until you feel it click. It makes all the difference putting it back together. So actually, it's a really good. I mean, I will do a tutorial on how to do the cases, the custom shell cases. They're dead easy. It's just all about torque rather than speed of how to tighten them up. This you shouldn't have to apply much pressure. If you do have to apply much pressure, it means that you're not doing it properly. Simple as that, really. So that means you've probably cross-threaded the screw. So yeah. So right, nearly there. 2 more left, and then. Right, so as you can see on the screen, it's quite smudged because you know that happens. So I'll just give that a wipe. There we go, and that's our Game Boy. So now screw it. I will put it back together. I wasn't going to bother because I'm only going to take it apart anyway. But then I can show you the. Actually, yeah, I can show you the game working. So you know what an inverted display looks like. So that's also another question I get asked quite often. You know, what's the difference? So it'd be quite nice to be able to show one off, show what the capabilities of it is, because it does have, you know, greater contrast. And if you're using it with LSDJ or something where you can swap the palette over, you don't even have to buy verted if you can't be bothered, or if you don't want to spend the extra £10. You know, you can just do that. If you're playing games on it though, you know, you prefer you don't like your blacks to be black and your whites to be whites, I think the extra £10 is quite a good investment, because it makes the Game Boy really. Or if you want to do it yourself, you know, the extra, however much it costs for a chip. I'll sell them for £1, but you can buy them other places for slightly cheaper than that. I think they're about 60 odd p. So, but I'll give you wire to save you having to buy that. Right. So that's that. Put the Game Boy batteries back in. Put my favourite Game Boy game in, Dr. Mario. It's close between that and Tetris, but I don't know what that is. Dr. Mario, I can play it for hours. Right, so turn it on. Turn the contrast wheel up. And you see all the blacks are black, all the whites are white. And that's our Game Boy done. You see, I always play Dr. Mario. I love it, absolutely love it. It's brilliant in all my tutorials. So anyway, that's that. So yeah, so if you want to see how I bivert it, I'm going to use the same Game Boy. I'm going to do that now. So thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy it.